To me, it's really a profound secret that in the midst of what can seem like a horrible situation, what is being overlooked is love and beauty. It seems impossible, and yet it's true. I'm not quite sure where to start the conversation. I kind of want to pick up what we were talking about, just being a victim. I feel like that's something that is thrown around quite a lot, but it's come up for me recently with a bunch of stuff that's happened at work and just different circumstances in my personal life going in a less than ideal way. I didn't realize it, but I started to fall into this mindset and this identity of this person who is a victim. And it got to the point where I realized I was being so negative about everything and I was complaining so much about everything. It's almost like there was this lens over top of everything that made it look, it just was tinted in a very negative way. And when you get into the flow of that, it's very easy for conversations with people to be steered that way. And then I'm relating on a level that is not very enjoyable for me. It's so surface. It's like these are all the things that are going wrong for me. And, you can tell me about all the things that are going wrong for you. And we can both be like, yeah, everything sucks. And I mean, that's the way I lived most of my life before having an awakening experience and coming to the Lila school and meeting a community where we related in a much deeper way, heart to heart, filled with love and openness and being rooted in quietness and nothing going on. In the Lila school, we call it being a true friend, quiet mind, open heart, not taking anything personally. And so falling back into this short period of time over the winter where I was being this victim really helped me realize how unfulfilling it is to live that way.
Tell me about being a victim.
It's funny because when you ask me the question now, hearing it from a really open space, it's funny. Like it's so ridiculous. And the immediate reaction is like, who is this one that is the victim? It's so made up. It's really this taking on of an identity as being this person who all these bad things are happening to.
And how do you become a victim?
It requires telling myself a story about what's happening. There has to be a superimposed narrative on top of what's happening, on top of how I'm feeling. And all these things are happening to me.
That feels really central, what you just said. All these things are happening to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the core of my egoic identity. That's how it feels. That there's this me, and this me is at the center of the universe and is so important. So even in saying that, I feel the sense of inflation that comes with it as well, which is something, we've talked about before. So even though it doesn't feel like I'm puffed up in a very good way where I'm feeling confident or good about myself or better than other people in any way, it actually kind of seems deflated because all these bad things are happening to me. But actually, the fact that I'm the center of the universe and it's all about me shows this self-importance and this egoic involvement.
What I notice about the way you're talking about it is that all these things are happening to me becomes like a worldview.
Yeah, worldview or lens is how I would describe it. It's the lens that I'm seeing things through.
The lens that me experiences the world through.
Yeah, and I guess for most of my life, I didn't know there was another option. That's how I lived, and that's how everyone around me lived. So that just was life, not one lens or one option to choose how to live. But that's not the same anymore. And that's why when you reflected something back to me a moment ago, I was laughing because I can see through it. It's totally made up. It requires an active participation to keep it going.
So, how do you go right now in this moment from everyone is doing something to me to seeing through it? And what is the result?
I just want to say that we had a conversation about this a couple weeks ago. So you, however you did it in that conversation, were able to reflect back to me something. And it gave me the opportunity to take a step back and recognize what was going on. So that reflection was very important. That was the how in that moment. So that now, when it comes up, to answer your question in the present, it's just obvious because I've already seen it, it's like I can't unsee it. I can't now just go back and live like that anymore. I know it's a farce. I know it's an egoic survival strategy to try to give me something, some sense of control. And I know that's not what I want. So now when it comes up, it's just so obvious. I don't really have to do anything. There's clarity around the whole pattern. That's inquiry to me. You investigate what's really going on. And then once you see through it, you recognize it's not real. And freedom is here. I have a choice, actually. I can be quiet and be happy and not talk about what's going on and make myself a victim about it. Or I could tell a story and suffer miserably and find people that want to relate to me about that because they also are a victim and want someone to talk about it with.
So funny. I hear your whole tone change. There's a certain comfort in being in that space of talking to other people about the suffering.
Yeah, familiarity, comfort, it's like that go-to way of dealing with um, emotional turmoil. I don't have to feel it. I don't have to experience the intensity of it. I'll instead kind of ride the wave in a way where I just talk about it, and it's like kind of just arms reach away, and yeah, that's my strategy.
I'm really curious if you could say more about how does that work that you don't feel the discomfort when you're telling stories about something.
Well, quite simply, my attention is in my head on my thoughts, and if it's there, then it's not on how I feel. It's not in my body. It's not present with sensations, the different emotions around how I'm feeling. So it's a way to distract myself. My attention is just elsewhere.
And why would anyone choose distraction?
It feels like I'm in control. And that way I don't have to feel something that doesn't necessarily feel good.
Are you saying that it somehow feels better to be in the place of I'm a victim?
Pausing for a moment here because it's not that it feels better, it's that it feels less. It's a way to not have to feel fully. And if I am feeling, then it's really staying on the surface. And that's what I meant when I said riding that wave. So for me, just to take this example of, I had a lot of work stuff going on over the last couple months that was very intense, very out of the blue, and just a lot to deal with all at once. The surface level emotion was anger. And rather than really fully feeling that in a way where it's fully associated, I'm quiet, it's experiencing it fully, I would tell a story about it and in a way fuel it. And again, make myself a victim to what's happening and complain and be negative about it and talk about it and think about it. And it's my way of like indulging this anger rather than going deeper. It's a big difference. And it's an option that maybe I didn't have in the past, but now it's much different. As I've learned through experience, emotions are layered. And so feeling that anger without any story attached to it, it very, very, very quickly softens. You find a deeper emotion under there. For me, there's hurt. There's a sadness that comes along with this situation. With this emotion, now it's the same option. I could talk about it and tell you why I'm sad and poor me, and or I can just experience it without taking anything personally. And again, deeper than that, there's a different emotion. It's fear. So in this way, life becomes more fulfilling. There's more depth. I'm in touch with my own heart. I'm in touch with how I feel. I'm in touch with silence, love, power, clarity. There's a fullness to it. So it's really just about that initial choice, being willing to feel and experience something that's not necessarily comfortable. It doesn't feel good.
What is the experience of feeling fear?
Peaceful and loving, present, multi-dimensional, spacious.
Is there anything to do?
Just the clear option that's present. And it's simple. Be quiet, be natural, be myself, or fabricate some story, create a narrative, and distract myself. and believe it's true and believe it's real and disassociate.
What I'm really noticing about what's here right now is how emotions aren't necessarily a signal that something needs to happen, something needs to change, something needs to be done or controlled.
Neither are circumstances.
And then this is the experience of no one here that needs to do something or control something or be a victim of anything.
It works the same way for the positive side of things too. I could give you a positive story about all these circumstances. We learned so much and we grew and it's great that things happen like this at this time. So now we could take care. I could spin it in a positive way too, but it's still the same thing. So it's not about how you relate to it or being positive or being negative, or it's actually just about your own internal relationship to yourself. And again, to put it simply, be quiet or tell a story.
Yeah, the language that is alive for me is experience or do.
Well, maybe you can expand on that because do is not the way that I would describe it for myself. So I'd love to hear how that works for you.
The structure is really similar. When you used the word distraction earlier, I distract from experience by doing. So for me, identification is about I'm someone who has to do something to take care of something. And there's an identity around being one who manages sensation, takes care of concerns. And this is, at the subtle layer of emotions, body sensation, experience, but also at the larger scale of, how I organize my day, what I do in the world. It's attachment to being someone who does things, as opposed to being quiet and how can I say this? It's not that I do nothing. It's that naturally things get done, being natural, as opposed to being someone who's doing something.
How do you know the difference?
It's very, very loud. It's very loud. Being natural has a clear body experience of transparency and a felt sense of physical flow that is without any control or knowledge or understanding or sense. Effortless. Whereas, yeah, being loud, being someone, being a victim, it's like there's all this pressure. Getting pushed out of a very small aperture in an attempt to control anything: sensation, emotion, experience, nature, circumstances. And that's how I identify as being a victim of, like, oh, the world is so hard. I have to do so much. And I'll never forget when I first recognized that I was somehow choosing to play a victim. Because, as you said, I wasn't aware of having any choice. In fact, the whole identity of being a victim seems like there's no choice. Someone else is doing it. Like, I'm a victim of, it's this story that I have no choice and there's nothing I can do. And actually, what's interesting is when I learned how I was indulging in being a victim, it was true that there was nothing I could do. I was in a circumstance where I had been victimized, um, in like the conventional sense of a violent crime. And it was also true that I was really taking shelter in a role of being a victim. And that even within that circumstance, there was a tremendous amount of choice. And the truth is that who I am was not a victim to anything. This heart of hearts, this eternal self, and even this earthly, mortal self, not truly a victim, actually. Loving, open, fulfilled, and capable. And that's the truth, actually, simply. And that's what's so sad about this identity of choosing to tell ourselves stories about how we have no choice, so that it overlooks love. Love is here. Beauty is also here.
To me, it's really a profound secret that in the midst of what can seem like a horrible situation filled with negativity, or even just a life that can feel depressing, speaking for myself here at different times of my life, that in the midst of all of that, what is being overlooked is love and beauty. It seems impossible, especially when you're really in it. And yet, it's true. Silence is here no matter what. Love is here no matter what.
It's like the ground that holds everything. It's like the sky that touches everything. And then being in the world and looking at all the structure and form and missing that there's the space of the sky touching each of us right now. And in some way, we're all in contact with the ground in this moment. And yet, our attention isn't on it.
Yeah, it's a really good metaphor. It's right here. It's right here, so close that sometimes it's hard to see. That's the gift and the beauty of having a relationship with a spiritual teacher, with a spiritual community, is it gets reflected to you. And I feel lucky to have met you and to have the Leela School, to constantly be able to, at sometimes very gently and lovingly reflect it, and at other times, maybe not as gentle, maybe a little more harsh, but all appropriate nonetheless.
Yeah, the reflection of love in all its many forms is so valuable, precious, sacred. And it comes from so many places, including, the way we reflect together and in the school. I also experience this reflection in nature.
Yep, it's sacred. And then you recognize that life is sacred. And that's quite the opposite of being a victim.
And what a mystery that it remains out of control. The sacredness of life is out of control. It's so beautiful when we put it that way.
Yeah, it feels like beautiful words to end this conversation with.
Yes. Thank you for sharing yourself, Jonas, and for being this reflection. May all beings be free.
Yes, thank you. So much love.